Hi, this is Simon from the Simon Westfall-Kwong Real Estate Group. Welcome everyone to our webinar and for Home Expo 2022. So we have lots of great information for you today, and hopefully you get to learn something and get some answer for all your different real estate needs. And we have all amazing panelists here, and they will answer all your questions. And I just want to say thank you to all sponsors, especially Guarantee Rate, John Lampkins, and also Acres Title, Pete Usolano, and they will be presenting today as well. And so we have a great session. So we're gonna start off with Shannon Aronson with me, and we're gonna talk about state of the market a little bit today. And I'm going to share our screen right now for 1 second. So Shannon, are you there with us?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep, great, excellent. So I'm going to just share a screen quickly just to show people what's going on in the marketplaces. In 2020, right now, those are all average prices up there. Between 2020, we have an amazing year, a great year in real estate, and then even it continued onto 2021. And you can see some of the prices from average price of 2020 to 2021. I won't go through all of them, but you can see the amazing value has increased for pretty much most of the town. I'm going to point out a couple of the key towns that really have amazing increased value. You have Short Hills that was increase of almost close to 12%. And then you have South Orange about 16%, Springfield about 11%. And then you have Chatham Borough almost 13%, Baskin Ridge 11%. And then you go to Maplewood almost 14%, and Montclair 12%, Mountain Lakes 15%, to Garwood, which is a first-time home buyer, at 20%. Those really are telling us what's going on in the marketplace today at 2021. And okay, also the limited active listing right now that's currently on the market. And also really the homes are selling really at rapid pace based on the days on market. So Shannon, by looking at this, what do you think of 2022 is gonna bring to us?
Well, Simon, I was chuckling when you said it was a great year, because I guess we're realtors at the core. It was a great year for realtors because it was fun and exciting and people needed our help. And we were really able to add a tremendous amount of value to people, because it is tough out there if you're a buyer, right? It was a great year in real estate if you were a seller. If you're a buyer, you really need us to sharpen our elbows and help you. And that's one thing we do really, really well on this team. For sellers, I always say to people, and I know you guys feel the same way, we don't want you to sell your house unless it's the right time for you. But what's very important right now for sellers is to understand their short-term, mid-term, long-term goals really, really well. Because if selling now is at all something that works with your long-term plan, I'm not sure we're gonna see this kind of a market. There are houses out there, they sell in a minute, as you know, and that's mostly because of that strong demand. And your slide with a town like Garwood, which is really for starter buyers, is so indicative of that. But it does follow on up to even the non-starter homes. The buyer demand has never been like this in our years in real estate, Simon. And so I think the important takeaway for people right now is that they need to think about the market and their own needs and decide what is the best strategy to take advantage of this current market or not. But if you decide not to take advantage of this market, if you're a seller, then kind of seller beware. We might not get back here. We might not get back here for a long time. And who knows when it stops? I do think we're going to see a strong season for sellers through this spring, unless something happens that none of us can see. But I'm happy for everybody that's on here, because this is the time to be asking yourself these difficult questions.
Yeah, I mean, especially, as the industry is predicting that, for 2022, there's still increase in, between 8 to 10% on real estate value. right?
Mhm.
But then also, we got John Lamkins a little bit later on, talk about interest rate, what's going on with that. That may change the home value maybe a little bit, but, to see how the market goes. So for a seller who really, understand what's going on and wants to take advantage of, the market, and they're like, what, Simon and Shannon, we know this is the best time for us to sell, but where do we go next? Because they're looking at the market, where can they go? That's a really popular question today.
Yeah, it is. And I had a nice conversation with a friend and client of ours last weekend. And I think the reality of where to go can open up your heart to some bigger life questions. Because if you sell here and you're simply looking to buy over here, that what would have been a downsize is now a little higher. And, so I think sometimes you need to go sit in a quiet space and realize that to a degree your life is a blank canvas. And then you got to put the things on the canvas that need to be where they are. Sometimes you need to be within X number of miles for a drive. Sometimes you need to be in a school district for your kids. But if there was, or whatever it is, but more than other times, I would invite sellers to just sit quietly and think, there's a lot of things I take almost as a given that I need to do or be, or geographically, wipe that clean a little. Sometimes maybe moving, we saw a lot of people moving farther west to Western New Jersey, at least, bigger areas, slightly farther from trains, slightly less urban. Maybe that's for you, maybe it's not. But if you can ask yourself some bigger questions, it may free up all of your options. Now, if it doesn't free up your options, then what you need to do is be realistic about how far your dollar will go when you buy. And I know that the buyer's agents on our teams are very good at that. If your budget is going to be 800,000, obviously we're past the days of them looking at things that are 900,000. You probably need to be looking at things that are 720, 750, 760. We haven't left anyone homeless yet, though, and we're not going to start now. So if you decide it's the right time as a seller to capitalize on this market, the most important thing to do is sit down and have a full, unhurried consultation with us so that we can help you brainstorm all of the options. And the market's changing all the time. There's new condos being developed. There's maybe geographical areas that you wouldn't have thought of 2 years ago that you'll think of now. But I believe that almost everything in life, someone does better than me. I do real estate pretty well, but not much else. So for all of you that aren't real estate professionals, take advantage of our knowledge and let us sit down with you and help you figure out how wide of an array of choices you're going to have on the buy side. It ain't easy, but we can help you with that.
Yeah, especially, you have different type of seller, right? You have seller who is empty nester, who have, kids starting in college and ready to go to move to even different, could be different state, or, could be back to New York City and all the different, places, or Florida or California. Then you also have, seller who, want to take advantage of this market, but they want to stay close by because of, education. So like, what would you say to those buyers, those sellers?
To a seller that needs to stay close by because of
Yes.
education? And do you mean even within the same town? Yeah. So I'd say something that I've been saying for a long time, which is that, more and less people want to do any work. And even houses that need rehabbing right now are hard to find. But if you can open your mind up to being willing to do some work, you're going to be much better off. Those houses that already look like, restoration hardware in all of our nicely staged pictures, those are the ones that are going to go for top dollar with, 45 offers. Though if you can open your mind maybe to some that are slightly ugly ducklings that might need an addition, that might need some work, that might need kitchens and bathrooms. Honestly, I don't love doing that stuff either. But it is manageable. It is doable. We can give you a lot of consultation, refer you to contractors that can help you do that. In John Lamkin, you have an absolute expert in terms of somebody that can help you get construction loans. So I would try to open your mind up as well about not necessarily needing turnkey beautiful, because that's where you're going to have the most competition as a buyer.
And then what about them as a seller that, you know what, I don't want to buy in this market. Maybe there's other option for me. So do you think there's like rental or temporary housing that they can go to?
Well, Simon, you know that my background is as a psychotherapist. So for me, nothing's simple. And I think the answer to that again goes back to having a really solid consultation, because for some people it might make sense to rent for a couple of years, a year, whatever. It kind of depends on your life, right? If you said, well, I want to live in Millburn 2 more years, and then once my kid is done with school, I think we're thinking of moving down to Florida. I'd say in that scenario, it might make sense. There might be other people who say, you know what, but I've always wanted to get started with investment properties anyway, which PS, if you're not doing that and it's the right time in your life, talk to us, because you should be. But so then you might say something like, let me buy a place that maybe doesn't make my heart absolutely sing, but I think it would be a good long-term rental property. Let me put myself in there, almost rent from myself 2 years. And then when I do move to Florida, or fill in the blank, I've got a built-in rental property working for me in one of the best places, on the East Coast. So we can help you analyze your own personal situation and figure out the best way to take advantage of the market. In some cases, I do worry that, we don't think the market's going to grow like this forever, but every smart person I know knows you can't time a market. So if you do sell and decide you're just going to rent for a while, hoping to catch the market after it flips down, you got to realize that we don't know when and if that'll be. And if the market keeps moving up and up and up, it could move against you. So I kind of like the idea of a hedge in a lot of places. If there is either that midterm investment property that you could buy, or if you know that you're going to be leaving the state, then as an exit strategy, different story.
That makes total sense, having, able to have that investment property working for you at the same time, right? If you decide to move in a couple of years. So Shannon, I know you wrote a book, a couple of years back, say, not to give your house away. What is one thing that you can say that, that today for seller, what they should really do?
In that book, I talk about the WENS method of pricing, WENS. It's not about what you want. It's not about what you spent. It's not about what you need. It's not about your ego. You can't compare what you got with someone else because your ego gets in the way. People tend to do what I call best feature pricing. They look at their house and they talk about the best feature and then they elevate the number. Your house has good features and your house probably has some not so good features. I know at least every house I've ever lived in does. So while we work with you as a team, and where you price your house is ultimately up to you, the most important thing you can do is listen to us, listen to the data we give you. Some of it's data, some of it's some anecdotal information. Try to take your ego out of it, or take out what you want or what you need in your mind to buy that next place, and be as objective as possible when you're pricing it, because the best way to take advantage of this insane seller's market right now is with razor sharp pricing. So the only people I'm seeing losing right now are people that are being a little too greedy. Would you agree with that? Yeah,
Absolutely. I mean, I sell it every day, so I definitely 100% agree with you. So Shannon, thank you so much for your time this morning, and hopefully I'll see you a little bit later, and then we'll catch up. And
always a pleasure to talk real estate, as you know.
Absolutely. Thank you for being on the team. So now we go on to the interesting topic, like mortgages with John Lampkins, that, everyone's talking about what's going on with the mortgage, interest rate, and all that. And John Lampkin is from Guarantee Rate, and he is going to touch on that for us. Hi, John. How are you doing?
Doing great.
Awesome. I believe you're sharing your screen.
Correct. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, absolutely.
Perfect. All right, welcome. Thank you for having me again.
Definitely. Always a pleasure having you.
All right, so my name is John Lampkin. I'm with Guaranteed Rate. We're the third largest retail mortgage lender in the US. We've grown exponentially over the years. It's a 20-year company based in Chicago, and I run the New Jersey office. And we've seen some great success over the last couple of years. Rates definitely helped that. The pandemic took a lot of people out of New York City, and the last 2 years have been phenomenal from both the purchase and refinance standpoint. My background is 20 years in the mortgage space. I've been with Guaranteed Rate now, just finished my 9th year. I've been on the top 1% for the last, since 2010. And in the last 6 years for Guaranteed Rate, pretty much from Connecticut South down to Florida, I've been like the #1 originator. I've got a phenomenal team that helps me. And last year we actually helped about 650 families either buy, refinance, or do renovation projects to their home. So I'm going to show a real quick video. Just a little about Guaranteed Rate. Maybe you saw this at the Super Bowl last year.
How did a blind man conquer Mount Everest? How did a kid who loved NASCAR just know in his heart one day he'd win the Brickyard and Daytona 500? How did an underdog, always counted out, take down the biggest name in the UFC? How? They all believed. They believed in themselves, and they believed that their dreams, their goals in life were more than just imaginable. They were possible. For those who believe in their dream of a new home, Guaranteed Rate is a mortgage lender with all the right tools, advice, and financing to make that dream a reality. Home office, backyard, more space, better view. Whatever you're striving for, you can make it happen. You can conquer that mountain. You can. If you believe, you will.
Yeah, so I wanted to show, that video because it's really
How did a blind
important. We're not like a typical lender. And what I mean by that is,
how did a blind man conquer
that? So I'm going to get into this interest rate chart in a second, but we honestly have over 50 different financial institutions that we're able to work with. So as a direct lender, we process, underwrite, close the loans in our name. But in a market where we're sitting in a rising rate environment, it's important to be on a multi-lender platform. Some of the banks do a great job, but in the reality, they have like one set of guidelines. And consumers out there, people get paid in various different ways, and people really need to have options when they're getting a mortgage. And that's what Guaranteed Rate has the ability to do. We have probably about 1,500 different products that we can offer our clients, and we try to educate and advise them on, what's the best program for their, short-term and long-term needs. So to give everybody just a quick update, because it is the, $1 million question, where are rates going? Unfortunately, rates are going up. I don't think they're going to go to 7-8%. But right now, last 2 years, we were sitting sub 3% range. Currently, the 30-year fixed after yesterday's phenomenal job report bumped up a little. And, now we're sitting about 3.5 to 3.625 on a conforming loan. So for every $100,000 you're looking to spend, the monthly payment only changes by about $30 a month. So if you're buying a $500,000 house, you're financing, say, $400,000, you're looking at your payment went up $120 a month. Not the end of the world. It's still a tax deduction. You'll be able to deduct more interest. The nice thing, especially for first-time home buyers, is they've increased the conforming loan limits to $970,000. So if you're a consumer and you want to buy, say, $1 million house, you can do that with a 5% down payment. So there's a lot of great programs out there. The jumbo market's actually a little bit lower in rate with Guaranteed Rate, because the way our platform is set up is because we have, multiple, banks that we can work with. We do utilize a number of community banks around the country, and they don't sell their mortgages directly as a retail operation. They use, organizations like ours to help, build their loan portfolio. So in a rising rate environment, these banks are huge because they do have, an appetite occasionally for certain loans. And it's been a great, option for me to use over the last 20 years as being always at a multi-platform environment. Any questions yet, Simon?
No, I mean, I think interest rates still pretty low compared to, when 2006 or, 2000, that was a 6%, ish at that point. And then, at one point there was 13% or 16% in interest rate, right? So comparatively, it's still really low. But in this environment, this, being multiple offers going on, what can a buyer do to make sure their loans or their pre-approval is solid when you present the offer?
That was a good segue to my next slide. So at
Awesome.
Guaranteed Rate, we do something that is a little bit different than most lenders when we pre-approve our clients. What we do is I always like to speak to the client first because I just think it's important to figure out exactly what their goals are. At that point, we have a phenomenal online application that takes about 10 to 15 minutes to fill out. We send the client a quick checklist of what documents we need. Our technology is so sophisticated that occasionally a client won't even have to send us their W-2s and pay stubs because our systems are intertwined with all the major employment verification organizations. So a lot of times we can get people's income without them getting us a pay stub. In addition, we have the same type of tool for our asset verification as well. So what we do is we get this information, and I have a dedicated underwriter on my team. And what that person does is they review all the information, and we're actually underwriting the loan before the client has a house. And that's not normal because underwriting, takes time and you have to do your due diligence. But we've found out that if we do it on the front end, then we know our clients are totally rock solid. It gives the listing agent and the seller, the warm and fuzzy that, this is like a cash offer because all we're going to need is an appraisal and title insurance to get the loan, to the closing table. So it's been a phenomenal tool. We love when clients say, oh, I wouldn't have got the offer if I didn't have my red arrow commitment. So, we really encourage our clients to take advantage of this program. There's no fee for it. And it's really helped our clients not only, win in multiple bid situations, but even sometimes they win if they don't even have the highest bid because their offer is so much stronger because they've been through underwriting. We also have like a digital closing. This happened during COVID, 2 years ago. And so when our clients go to the closing table, they don't have to take a day off from work for like a 3-hour closing. They literally can sign the documents, in their kitchen on a computer, and then they go see their attorney, and they could be in and out of the attorney's office in 10 or 15 minutes. So it's a great tool that's really helped accomplish that. And one other thing that this red arrow commitment does is not only do they have the commitment at pre-approval, but now we can close the loan so much quicker because we've done all the heavy lifting. So, we average, and these are my real numbers from last year. For a purchase transaction, we can close them on average in 14 days. Now, granted, there are certain situations where there's a 35, a 45, a 60, 90-day close, but our loan is cleared to close, on average in 14 days. And refis is a little bit slower, maybe like 20, just because we take priority with our purchase transactions.
And, this having this commitment to land is great because it's almost as good as waiving your mortgage contingency. Now let's talk about, with the multiple offer situation going on right now, that you want to give them the best terms. One of the terms a lot of people is appraisal. How are you seeing appraisal right now? Homes, because right now it's selling all-time high. Is homes appraising at the value, or what are you seeing out there on the marketplace?
So we haven't had any really appraisal issues at all. I can only go off my personal statistics. As a numbers guy, I like to keep track of things. So last year, out of 649 transactions, I had 3 appraisal issues. And one of them was a client that was buying a house in Montclair, and there was a price on the table, and she increased her bid by $200,000 when the deal was in attorney review, and was able to win the deal from another buyer. In a situation like that, the client was desperate. They were putting down a huge down payment. and it didn't make a difference if it underappraised slightly. So usually the appraisals get done within 5 to 7 days. One big difference with guaranteed rate versus some of like the traditional financial institutions is, as a lender, you have two ways to manage your appraisal process. You can either use a third-party management company, or you can manage the process internally. When you use a third-party management company, you're now at the risk of getting an appraiser that's not familiar with the area to do an appraisal. So perfect example, someone's buying a home in Millburn, the house was on the market for $750, it went for $950. An appraiser goes out there from the Jersey Shore, doesn't really know Millburn, New Jersey that well, and they underappraise the house. We do not do that. Okay, we only use local appraisers. So we have a rotation. It's county specific. So like Essex, Morrison, Union County, on my personal rotation, I have 6 appraisal companies. I've worked with these professionals for years. They know the market. Their number one goal is to make sure the client is not overpaying for the house. The number 2 goal is to get additional comps. And because there's been so much sales activity, we haven't had any issues, really getting the houses to appraise.
That's fantastic. That's great to hear. John, thank you so much for your time today. John, if someone wants to reach out to you, what is the best, your contact information that you can provide?
Yeah. So just one more quick thing for anybody that does apply or has questions and would like to speak to me. There's my website. It's rate.com. And then you just have to hit / in my name, John, no H, JON, LAMKIN. And anybody that was on today's Expo, hopefully next year we can do it live. They're going to be able to waive all their lender fees with guaranteed rate.
Oh, thank you so much, John. That's wonderful news. And John, what is the best number for them to reach you?
My number is 973-219-9282. I do work on the weekends, especially now that I can't play golf because it's like 2 degrees outside. But we do, work over the weekends, and I get plenty of calls Sunday night. Hey, I need a pre-approval, and myself and I have 3 other, sales people that assist me with those and try to get these turned over in, an hour or 2.
Excellent. Well, John, thank you so much for your time today. And anyone needs to have any questions about, mortgage, commitments, appraisal, definitely get in touch with John Lampkins. He is one of the best out there in the industry. Thank you again. So now we are going to move on to our next panelist. It's Anthony Gaeta, and we're going to talk about estate planning. Having all the value going up in real estate is definitely makes sense for you to talk to an estate attorney just to find out what is involved to make sure you have the best option. Hi, Anthony. How are you doing?
Hi, Simon. Doing great. How are you?
Bill, also. Sorry. Hi, Bill.
Hello. Hi. So yeah, I head up the Gaeta Law Firm. We're a comprehensive litigation, estate planning, and estate administration firm. And what a lot of people don't realize about real estate is as soon as they close on their home, they've done a form of estate planning. They've done a deed. And we've noticed, at least in my practice, a lot of attorneys reflexively will give a purchasing couple, husband and wife, a deed that says joint tenants, tenants by the entirety, or joint tenants at rights of survivorship. And what a lot of people don't realize is that is planning. What would happen upon the death of the first spouse is the entirety of the title to the house will transfer automatically to the surviving spouse. Now you'd say, well, what's the big deal with that? It can be a big deal later, and it was a big deal in the past for a couple of reasons. One is New Jersey used to have a very onerous estate tax, something on the order of $675,000, and above that, you got hit with the tax. So that has gone away, but it may rear its head again. By titling your property, and we give this advice to almost all of our clients with rare exception, we tend to title the deeds, or ask that the deeds be titled by the closing attorney as tenants in common. And what that does is it gives you a level of control over your estate plan at the time the first to die spouse, at the death of the first to die spouse. So that allows you to put half that house at home's equity into trust. In tax planning, it was used for that purpose, but there's another purpose, which is elder law planning. So as we get older, what is a home? Really, it's our largest asset generally. We have forced savings into it where we pay down our mortgage and we build equity over time. Now, as you get up in years, let's say someone loses their spouse or life partner, and they're staring down the barrel of potentially going into a nursing home. Well, say on $1 million home, if you have joint tenants or with survivorship rights, that $1 million home is now completely in the name of the second to die spouse or the surviving spouse, and they'd have to spend through that $1 million before they became Medicaid eligible for a nursing home. So using planning through a deed and through the probate process, you can split that $500,000 and put it into trust, and it's protected from Medicaid, from creditors, and everything else. And then you can do some other sophisticated planning to make sure that's protected. But all that comes down to the deed that you do at the closing table. So that's why it's important when someone's doing a transaction, certainly from a real estate agent's perspective, is how do you want the deed titled? And when that question's asked, often that will then lead to a discussion of estate planning. So when you're buying what will be ultimately most people's largest assets, they should look to a law firm to do that planning and ask those types of questions. So I'm sitting next to my colleague, Bill Friedman. We've been friends for a long time, and now we have we're lucky enough to practice law together. So Bill's going to tell you a little bit about step up in basis and like-kind exchanges.
So thank you, Anthony. One of the benefits of home ownership, and it goes to the government's encouragement in the tax code to promote home ownership, is that when a person passes and their house is left to whoever it's left to, whether it's their children or whoever specified in the will, that real estate asset transfers with what's called a step up in basis at a stepped up rate. So in other words, even if the house was purchased in 1970 for $50,000 and now it's worth $800,000, the basis of the house when the person dies is the value of the house at the date they died. So instead of having to pay a capital gains tax on that basis of $50,000 to $800,000, the heirs, if they sell the home, will only pay a basis of whatever the value of the house was at the date of death to the value of the house when it's sold. So in other words, capital gains are basically erased by the tax code when you're dealing with real estate that's left via will or intestacy. So that's a tremendous benefit. Most people aren't aware of it. I know people will sometimes say, well, shouldn't I deed my house to my children before I die? That way they get the house. And we always say, no, because you lose the step up. You'll be deeding the house to your children. You'll incur a massive capital gains tax that will have to be paid at some point. Best thing to do is to leave it in your name, devise it in your will to whomever's going to take it, and let them take advantage of the tax benefit. Now, when it comes to your non-primary residence, another advantage in the tax code is what they call the like-kind or 1031 exchange. And that allows you to take your non-primary residence and do what's called instead of just leaving it to an heir, you can do a 1031 like-kind exchange. So you take the value, whatever you would realize from that sale, it gets rolled into the next property. The capital gains tax is deferred, and you don't have to pay that capital gains tax until you sell your final property, right? So you can keep rolling it and rolling it and rolling it in 1031 like-kind exchanges. And what happens when you die? Well, that capital gains tax just goes away like it never happened. I don't know of anything else in the tax code that lets you just get away with something like that. So it's something to definitely consider from an estate planning standpoint. It's just such a powerful tool for avoiding what would be normally a rather massive tax burden. And I think that covers it. Listing.
Do you have any questions at this point?
Yeah, so on the 1031, which is really interesting, amazing that, that could happen. Now, I know there's a time limit, like when you sell homes and get to, can you talk about the time period, how much time you have to find your next home? before their 1031 exchange expire in a sense?
I don't know the actual
Yeah, I think
limit off the top of my
it's
head.
around 3 months, give
Yeah.
or take.
Okay.
It's short.
It's a very short period of time, and there are a lot of people don't know there are vehicles out there that allow you to get the 1031 exchange benefits. If you invest, it's a real estate investment trust or
Mhm.
REIT,
Mhm.
and there are certain investment products that carry with it the status of a 1031 exchange. And so when you're selling your house, you can use those as a vehicle as well. But I know it's a very, very short window in relative terms, so it helps you to have your ducks in a row, both on the sellers and buyer side, if that's what your objective is. That's a good segue. We were able to, and these questions, as a sophisticated real estate agent, should come up. They can assist you with the sale, and it's a great segue. Everybody so far has talked about Florida. I'm going to share my screen and talk to you about a personal story with Florida. So, we were negotiating for the purchase of a property down there. We were pre-qualified. We had cash for the deal, and the people selling were going to move into a new place in Venice. And so they wanted out quick. And because we could close quickly, because of the 1031 exchange, we were able to close in a week, literally done deal. And we were able to realize probably the lowest purchase price in that development over the last 20 years. And why was it good for us? We got a low price. Why was it good for them? They realized the short window in the 1031 exchange, and they were able to then roll over their cost basis into their new property. It was win, win, win all around, and everybody was happy. You'll notice this is a Florida deed, if you will. It's really an assignment of lease. Well, you'll notice this was actually structured as joint tenants with rights of survivorship. The reason it was done this way in Florida is that there are probate fees in Florida. So in Florida, you want to avoid probate. So again, cost benefit. In New Jersey, you really want to take advantage of the probate process. So that's why there's different titling here versus there. And our firm is prepared to assist with all these levels of sophistication, as well as when you're relocating to another state.
That's fantastic. And also, Anton, I know that your firm does other specialty as well. So you want to quickly just mention a couple of them that people know that you also do other real estate law?
Certainly, yes. We do. A lot of it touches and concerns. We do a lot of estate litigation. We litigate deeds. We do. So if there's a title issue, we'll file an action to quiet title, which if you're selling a property and these issues come up, we'd address them in litigation, get an order from the court saying that the deed is kosher or not, and settle title to allow the deal to go through. We engage in a variety of other aspects of litigation, like estate litigation, commercial litigation. We litigate in New York and New Jersey. We also do partition actions. So, for example, if you have two owners, one wants to sell, one wants to hold the property. Guess what? The one who wants to sell has legal rights to compel a sale. So, as a realtor, if you're faced with that scenario, you'd say, I know that the person who wants to sell, as long as they have an interest in the property, they can compel a sale. You also have scenarios, a lot of people buy properties with LLCs and corporations. Typically, we see LLCs. And so when one wants to sell and the other won't, you file what's called an oppression action, an oppressed shareholder dispute, which results in the sale. So we have a lot of tools in our wheelhouse to allow for a positive outcome and a sale of properties when maybe you're having trouble with owners or trouble with title.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time today. So if someone wants to get in touch with you with all the different real estate that you specialize, what is the best number and your contact information that they can get in touch with you?
Sure. It's highlighted in our screen below. It's 201-939-3304. It's also, you reach me by email, my first initial and last name, agaeta@gatalawfirm.com. So look forward to hearing from everybody. And it's great working with you and your office, Simon. We've done a few deals before. One particularly long one, but it got done.
That's done. That's what happened with the state, right? That's what happened with it. Excellent. Thank you so much. And for your time, please do get in touch with them with anything you have to do with estate planning. And also, they also do tenants and landlord as well. So that's definitely you want to get in touch with them. So now we're going to move on to the next segment. Now, this is really one of the most important questions a lot of people ask, as a seller, how do we get the, net the highest value that we can do for you? I'm going to bring on my team member, Tracy Bibelberg, and also I'm going to have Shannon join me as well. And then I'm going to share my screen. Sorry, 1 second. I need to do one thing. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that, guys. All right, so this is tell you a little bit who we are. This is our team, the Simon Westfall-Kwong Real Estate Group. When you work with us, we always are there for you every single step of the way. Our guiding principle is concierge service. So we can make sure that we help you from the beginning, before you list your home, all the way to your closing tables and beyond. So because we want to make sure your process is stress-free. So today we're going to talk about how to net the highest value for you. And we're going to talk about some of the steps. So Tracy, what are some of the things that you tell your client when you go meet them at the house?
Thanks, Simon. Sure. One of the first things is when you're going to sell your house, you need to start thinking about how your house will appear to the potential buyers. And we're there to help you with that process. One of the first things that we will suggest is that you declutter the house. We all live in our house and we fill our house with pictures of our families and mementos and things that are very important to us. But when we go to sell the house, we want to depersonalize it as much as possible. So when we go in, we will work with you and we will talk about which pieces you want to sell, which pieces you might think about donating to charity, and which pieces you're going to keep. And in that way, we get your house ready and have it depersonalized and make it look appealing to the potential buyers.
Yeah, today buyers, they definitely want to, want to see how they can live in their homes and not how you live, how you live in the house. So less is more. Sharon, do you have anything to add to on this, on the decluttering part?
Yeah, I would say that a lot of times people think that as realtors, we come in and tell them to do ABC, and they sort of ask themselves, well, I don't like that, or that chair doesn't make sense there, or how can you live with that many pillows? You need to take reality out of it and understand that this is sort of like designing a stage for a sitcom. Everything needs to be geared to look good for the internet and on pictures, because by the time a person comes to your house, I always say that's actually the second showing. They've already spent so much time analyzing pictures and floor plans and video that they've already decided whether or not they've fallen in love with your house. So even if it doesn't make sense from a warmth, how do I want to live point of view, trust the team. They know what they're doing with staging the house and getting it ready to sell.
Excellent. So, and then the next thing we're going to tell them is, to keep it light and airy. Do you agree with that, Tracy?
Definitely. Keeping it light and airy really speaks to what Shannon was saying about the first impression that people have of your home is when they view the picture. And there's such a difference of viewing it in a neutral way with colors that make it seem light, airy, and open, and space. Keeping it neutral really just is usually putting on a fresh coat of paint.
Yeah, definitely. You want to keep it as neutral as possible to appeal to the audience, because today buyers are all visual buyers. And then the next thing, once we have your house painted, or if you choose to, because definitely it's at your preference, and we can definitely sell your house as is. or definitely, if you decide that you're willing to do some refreshing and get it ready to sell, we have the professional that can help you. And Tracy, you want to touch on the staging part when that comes in?
Sure. Once you've decluttered your house and we've gone through and you've decided that you're going to paint, maybe you decide to paint only a few rooms, maybe you decide to paint the entire house, we will then come in with a stager, interior designer, and we can walk through your house and we can get it ready for pictures. Sometimes it's just a matter of putting on new quilts and lots of pillows just to make it look nice. Sometimes we're taking certain pieces of furniture out, but our vision is always geared towards how will the pictures look, so the first impression that the buyers have is a great impression.
Yeah, and Shannon, this go back to what you say about having the stage, right? Because, based on study, that homes are selling 87% faster than a home that's not staged. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. And, I think these pictures speak 1,000 words. It's almost laughable when you look at the difference before and after and think about what you would think if you were a buyer out there in the community. And, Simon, there are a lot of things I think you do really well, but one of the things I think that's really a unique ability for you is this ability. And I think it's a huge advantage that you bring to the table for sellers. And I know it's not just you, but your vision has radiated now through the entire team. I don't think there's anybody out there doing a better job than you guys at getting home staged and ready to sell at top dollar.
Oh, thank you so much. That helps with that. Before, during 15 years of real estate, I was in fashion and interior design. So I can definitely see past what a house could look like. And also, we work 24/7 with 365 days a year to work with buyers, so we know how to help you sell a house and get you maximum and highest net value as possible. So we going to show you some example of how you can do that. And Tracy, you want to kind of go through this particular home?
Sure. So this is a home where, as you can see, just really putting on a fresh coat of paint in a neutral color has completely changed the look of the home. If you see the before picture and the after picture, you almost wouldn't recognize it as the same place. And the after picture is showing all the best features of the home, so much better than the before picture. You can see the windows are brighter. The kitchen looks brighter, it looks open, it looks airy, and it is what today's buyer is looking for.
Yeah, and then you can choose different level on how comfortable you are to do the work. You don't have to do all of it. You can just maybe possibly just do the painting the wall, right? That definitely is at your comfort level. And in this next one is to show you, this is definitely more like the stay home sale. And then, we quickly went in there to refresh the kitchen and bring in the stainless steel appliances. Again, today buyers are visual buyer. You have one chance to impress them. Then, Tracy, you want to touch on this, dining room? We really didn't do too much in this dining room.
No, there really wasn't much done here before. I mean, the before picture was, those walls were very popular back in the late 90s up to like 2005. All we really did here was have the walls painted and change out the chandelier to a more current look. These were not things that we did that cost a tremendous amount of money. Just putting a fresh coat of paint on and a nice chandelier changed the entire look of the place. We brought in some staging items as well.
Yeah, and we have the professional that can help you. The goal is to, like really keep your expand minimum as possible, but get you the highest net value as well.
Correct. You're not going through this by yourself. We will always provide the professionals to help you get this done.
Absolutely. And then this is to show you, from another great room that they have carpeted, and then we, now you see the wood floor and the room is painted. Again, fresh coat of paint and just with staging item really makes a difference about how to show a house. And then there's a whole process, right? When you go through homes, and then this is the process. And that's where we come in to making sure we're there right from the beginning with you. And also recommend you, like, if there's services that can help you to declutter the house, and then service can help you to just get the house ready to go. And then we can provide you professional contractor to help you to get the house refreshed, paint, or put in a light fixture. And then we can get you either the stager or use our service to get you a staged home. So that's really, what we're about. We really truly believe a white glove service and give you concierge service. That's from the beginning to all the way to the closing tables and beyond.
Correct. And I think it's important to mention, though, we want to do what's right for you. And if what's right for you is selling the home as is, we can work with that also. What we're going through now is really just showing you how to get top dollar, as Shannon said before.
Yeah, and then this is a home, Shannon, that you actually know this home really well. And beforehand, that we couldn't get the traffic in, and then we say, let's take the house off the market during the pandemic, and then we quickly refresh it. Can you see the big difference, Shannon?
Yeah, that was a great success story.
Yeah, and then we got this seller multiple offers and a lot more than what they would have gotten.
The weekend after we painted the kitchen, it was done.
Yeah, literally it was just right after the next weekend. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So fresh coat of paint definitely do a big job, but also again, it's your comfort level. And if you decide to sell your home as is, we can definitely do that and price your house accordingly. Tracy, you want to touch on this of what we quickly done on some of the rooms?
Yeah, this home also was a great success story. If you can see the before pictures, they had some beautiful items, but not what the current buyer is looking for. We did a very quick refresh of paint and bathrooms, nothing crazy. And by doing that, we were able to attract multiple offers and get a really great price for these sellers.
And then this last one is to show you that this home was actually in a magazine. Back in 2008, this is very popular, all the designer level and designer features and all the wave about during that time and colors and everything. But today, style changes every about 8 to 10 years. So if you want to sell your home at the top dollars, highest net value, you want to just do some, again, this is mostly about paint. So paint does an amazing job that could really make a difference. So once all that is done, Tracy, you want to touch base on what we do next?
Sure. Once your home is prepped and the stagers come in and we're ready to go, the next thing we do is we bring in our professional photographers, which is super important and goes back to exactly what Shannon was saying before, and Simon, that today's buyer is a visual buyer and they've already looked at your home 3, 4, 5 times, studying the pictures online before they even make the decision to come out and see it. So your pictures have to be on point, and we make sure they are by hiring professional photographers to take them.
And Shannon, don't you agree that, almost 95%, or probably 98% of buyers go online first to look at houses, and we really only one chance to impress them?
Absolutely. They're sitting in their kitchen looking to screen out things they don't want to see. And if your pictures don't look good, they have screened you out. You have lost more buyers in that instance than anything about reality.
Yeah, today, everyone has very short attention span. If in the first 3 to 5 seconds, if you don't impress them, it's really, they can move on to the next.
You want to be favorited in that moment that they look at your house.
Yeah, you want to create that wow factor, right? So once we all that done, let's say you do have a house that's vacant, empty. What we can do is that come in and virtually stage this house. Again, we are really great professional that can making sure the home looks amazing, and you can really tell those are furniture is not even there. So we really use a very nice professional service at the site. And then Tracy, you want to touch base on like some of the home, how we feature the exterior?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, sometimes it makes perfect sense to do an aerial shot of the home if we think that it's going to, there's a big piece of land, we think it's going to show up really well and be very impressive and create excitement. We will also go and do an aerial shot for you.
And then also sometimes what we do is that we do a dust shot to make sure your feature of your home. So maybe you have a pool, or maybe that actually the lighting of your house looks amazing, fantastic. That will give a wow factor to their buyers as well. And then also, you know, once we have certain things done, and Tracy, you want to touch on about the video?
Yeah, so the video is a really great tool that we have. It gets done at the same time as the professional pictures get done. And they bring a professional videographer and he goes through and it tells a beautiful story of your home set to music and just invites you in. And we found it to be a great tool in getting people excited about coming to see the home.
We're going to just show you a couple quick seconds of it so you can see it. So that gives you an idea. Also, what we do is that during the pandemic right now, that is really popular, we do a 3D virtual tour. So we actually come in and scan the whole house with a camera and walk through the whole house. So actually buyer can online see your house, every single pretty much, you know, the layout of the house before they come in. So those buyers that come into your house right now, those are all serious buyer, ready and willing to go and give you the best offer as possible. So then we, once all this is done, we really prize out on what we do, how we do the marketing, is that, you know, we put all your pictures together, your video, your floor plan, and your virtual tour, and then you create your own, we have your own website. So everything's about feature you. And Shannon, we do a really great job on this. Do you think so?
Absolutely. And you know what really strikes me about the whole thing is that I often find people want to call the realtor too late in the process. Everything that you guys have thought through here that we do for everybody really needs to start from the very beginning, because we can see it from beginning to end. And this shot really shows a stunning end version that took some time to get to.
Absolutely. And then, you know, one of the most important thing, you know, even today's market that we all say, you know, house is moving really quickly and there's a limited active listing that's out there. But we also want to make sure we set the reality and be realistic on the number, which Shannon, you touched on that a little bit earlier about how seller could be today. So I really truly believe that you want to make sure that you price your house correctly, and then you don't want the market, you don't want to chase the market, you want the market chase after you. And then we can come in and provide you that with the, you know, recent sale, what's going on with similar homes, and what make the most sense to get the best and highest value as possible. Shannon, what do you think about that?
I think it's so true. You can chase the market or the market can chase you. When the market chases you, that's when you're getting multiple offers going way over asking. And you hear of stories like the one John Lampkin told earlier, where somebody was paying a ridiculous amount because they were desperate. When you sit on the market at the moment, even 1 minute too long, you've told the market that you're the only house sitting, and they're automatically going to start discounting the price from there out. So you have one chance to make the right first impression.
Absolutely. So, you know, if you are looking to get the highest net value, please get in touch with us. And thank you so much for Shannon and Tracy, your time. Do you guys have anything else to add?
I would just say, if any of you have any questions, just like Simon said, please get in touch with us. We're happy to chat, to talk to you about getting your house on the market, and to even, as Shannon said, talk to you about, you know, what your plan looks like and if it makes sense for you right now to do that.
Yeah, we like to help you guys early. Just don't feel that you shouldn't call us till we're ready. We're here to really be a friend and confidant and support and professional guide for you through the whole process.
Yeah, because we want to actually help you, guide you through that timing, and also like, we want to create the timepieces for you as well, to making sure that your process is stress-free as possible. So if you'd like to reach out to us, my number is 973-489-8885, 973-489-8885. And my email is simon@swkrealestate.com, simon@swkrealestate.com. And Tracy, you want to give out your info as well?
Sure. I can be reached at 908-510-9593. That's 908-510-9593. That's my cell phone. I get back to you within the same day. Or you can reach out to me via email, tracy@swkrealestate.com.
Excellent. Well, thank you for both your time. This was amazing. I hope seller out there who's listening, this was informative for them, and they can definitely get in touch with us. So with that being said, getting top dollar, right? So we are talking to a stager right now next to Sarah Walker, who is the owner of River Link Interior. And she's going to talk to us about, why you need to stage out, or also what's the latest trend in interior design. Hi, Sarah, how you doing?
Hi, Simon. Good. How are you doing? Good to see you.
Good.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, my pleasure. So let's talk about it. You help us, stage some of the home that, we have on the market. What do you see? You see the difference, and I know does it worth people doing it?
100%. I'll share my screen in a few minutes and just kind of go into the specifics about how beneficial staging is and why it's so important, and what buyers and sellers both can get out of it. But absolutely, I think in the past it's always been associated with high-end real estate, but now it's so accessible that you see it across the entire marketplace.
That totally makes sense. Let's see what you have to share.
All right. All right. All right, so let me start at the beginning. All right, so staging to sell. What is staging? You guys talked about it. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but we don't see your screen. Sorry.
You're not seeing it? Hold on. How about now?
Perfect. Excellent.
Okay, sorry about that.
No problem.
All right, so staging to sell. What is staging? So you talked about it a little bit, Simon, and for our purposes, staging is the preparation of a private residence for sale in the real estate marketplace. The goal of staging is to make a home appealing to the highest number of potential buyers to maximize profit and minimize time on the market. It can be transformative and make even the oldest homes look new. By highlighting a home's features, staging demonstrates its potentials to buyers. And really, it's all about buyers visualizing themselves in a home. So the benefits of staging. So as you spoke about early, both you and Shannon talked about, you only have one chance to make a first impression. And for 95% of buyers, that's online. So photographs, virtual tours, and videos are everything. The online experience will absolutely drive buyers to take the next step in making an appointment for a walkthrough. And since the start of COVID, more than 7 in 10 agents have found that videos and virtual tours are ever more important. Staging a home helps consumers see the full potential of a given space or property. It features a home in its best light. Take, for example, an open floor plan, and thankfully you kind of showed one in one of your videos, but a lot of buyers prefer open floor plans. However, if there is little to no furniture, potential buyers will often find it difficult to envision how and where to place the furniture or how to lay out a room. So this leaves room for the buyer to second guess a home, which could easily be avoided through staging. Staging also increases the sum buyers are willing to spend for a property. So according to the report by the National Association of Realtors, 23% of buyers agents said that home staging raised the dollar value offered between 1% and 5%. I personally think this is a little below or a little low. I think it can go upwards of 15 to 20% higher, especially in this marketplace. So this could be the difference of a few thousand to tens of thousands of dollars that sellers can end up leaving on the table. Also, 63% of agents say that staging decreases the time a house spends on the market. An increased amount of time on the market often makes buyers wonder what's wrong with the property. So you want to try to avoid that. And finally, these days, buyers expect it. Like I said earlier, although staging gained popularity in higher price listings, it's become more commonplace for all segments of the market. And the good news is it's accessible. So the amount of people offering these services has increased, whether it's a professional stager or just your realtor. Another interesting fact is the impact that like HGTV and other television shows that depict the home buying process. 61% of agents say that TV programs set higher expectations for how a home should look. And even 68% of buyers have reported being disappointed by how real homes on the market appeared compared to those on the television, which I thought was interesting. So a lot of people probably ask, wait, even in a hot market, why do we have to stage now? Buyers are coming in droves, houses are flying off the market. But it's especially important now. When a market is hot, buyers have a greater sense of urgency. This means they have to move quickly and they're more easily swayed by first impressions and emotions. Homeowners can use this to their advantage by staging their house. In a hot market, a stage home can attract multiple offers instantly after listing it. And if you really think about the math of the selling process, when the market is hot and buyers are paying top dollar, they're less likely to have money left over for renovations or repairs, right? So staging puts less weight on minor renovations or repairs that may come to light throughout the process. So if you hire a stager or your realtor does your staging for you, they will focus on the most cost-effective updates or repairs needed to show that your home is well worth the selling price. Prioritize. Where do you start? You can do a million things. I think we talked about curb appeal a little bit already. It's ever important based on that first impression, right? So nobody wants to see cracked front steps, a poorly painted front door, or an unruly landscape. Remember, you want your home to project a well-maintained vibe. You don't want buyers wondering what else hasn't been taken care of in this home. And if you have this space, an outdoor living space, especially in the times of COVID, can add a lot of value. Living room and kitchens are pretty self-explanatory. They're two rooms in which your average family spends most of their time. Kitchens are a high dollar renovation. And so even little fixes like the ones you showed in your picture, Simon, where you just put a nice coat of white paint on dark cabinets, can make buyers say, oh, we can live with this. It might not be our taste, but we can live with this until we can save the money for a renovation. And a living room that projects warm and cozy is always a winner. And then finally, obviously, the primary bedroom is an easy, low-cost room to deliver that wow factor. So tips for some successful staging. I'm just going to go through a sampling of areas to focus on staging in no particular order. And remember, the list is quite different for each property. First and foremost, selling a house and the process of moving can be an extremely emotional endeavor. And so our homes, hold a lot of memories, but remember, staging isn't personal. And I think Stacy touched on this a little bit. And it's also not interior design. So advice from a stager is not a personal affront to your style. It's merely an expert sharing advice to help maximize the selling process. And tactics used in staging are not necessarily those that would be used in decorating a forever home. Highlights and flaws. What do we do about those? You obviously want to highlight, your home's assets. So say you have a spacious live-in kitchen with a gorgeous fireplace, really highlight it, draw attention to it, lay out the room to maximize comfort. Highlight the fireplace so buyers can envision themselves gathering with their family or entertaining. On the converse, say you have a small kind of cold 3 seasons room, it's still square footage that you should be marketing. So make it feel like it's really part of the house. Some bright colored paint and updated flooring can make it easy enough to stage that space as a home office that many buyers are seeking these days. Let's see, this is obvious. We talked about Oops, let's back up one second. So maximizing the flow and layout. So I think Tracy said this, how you would lay out a home for staging is not at all always how it's going to be laid out for living. So proper staging will make the home appear larger, but don't think that clearing out a room doesn't always make it seem bigger. It can actually make rooms appear smaller. So it always also makes it a case for staging new construction as well. And then on the other end of the spectrum, having too many pieces or oversized furniture can make a room feel cramped. And then we talked about, this is again, obvious and basic, removing clutter. I like to tell sellers to look at this as an opportunity to pre-pack. You have the benefit of cleaning out and packing up belongings for your impending move, rather than doing it all at once with the moving truck sitting at your curb. Paint, you touched on that. There's not enough that can be said about a fresh coat of paint. The right and wrong colors can evoke certain emotions. And I think what you're always looking for in picking paints for a staged home is calm, serene, and welcoming. So thinking neutrals, calm blues, and bright, clean whites. Lighting is also a huge component. Simply walking through a home that has recessed lighting and making sure all the bulbs are the right type of light bulbs, and that they're all uniform. The good news is that lighting is another aspect of staging that can be updated rather inexpensively. You can go to your local big box stores and find some new fixtures or updated fixtures. So again, if a room doesn't have the benefit of recessed lighting, ensure plenty of accent lighting around a room, coordinated table and floor lamps, and also remove heavy and dark window treatments for a more natural lighting.
Wow, those are really great tips, Sarah.
Yeah.
So let's say, you know what is some of the current interior design trend right now? Are you still seeing light color, and are you seeing any new trend? Like, is there what about the kitchen pole? Like, what are those looking like?
Yeah, absolutely. I will get back to that a little bit too, but yeah, you're still seeing neutral colors. I think we're moving a little bit farther away from the cool grays that have dominated the last decade. So you're seeing more colors in the family of grays, not your grandma's beige that have those heavy yellow undertones, but just warm colors. You're going to be seeing a little bit more, I think in interior design, you're going to be seeing more color in houses, like splashes and accents and all of that. But your basis for a room will generally continue to be more neutral. I think, yeah. So I think the big question that people ask oftentimes is, what can I expect to spend? It's really tough to monetize staging since it varies regionally and from home to home. But according to Home Advisor, the national average is around $1,500. That might be a little low in this area. But the good news is that you can do a lot of it yourself. You can do as much of it as you want yourself. If you're handy, you can paint. If you're not, you can hire your own painter and get competitive quotes. And of course, owners should and can handle the decluttering, personalizing, and moving out of stuff. Your real estate agent, many real estate agents, especially Simon and his team, really believe strongly in staging's ability to improve a home sale. So as a result, you will help, I know you personally, Simon, help clients prepare and stage the home before photographing it. You provide recommendations for how sellers can stage the home themselves, so little DIY for them. But I know that you personally are also really very hands-on in the process. You have a collection of contractors that you can easily pull from, who are basically at your beck and call, and home items. You have a good stash and warehouse of home items that you can share to spruce up a property. And then, of course, there's professional stagers, and I know that you and I partner together a lot. And I can get as involved or as uninvolved as an owner wants.
Absolutely.
But
yeah.
I think the one thing I would also say is to plan ahead and spread it out, right? So I think if you're redoing a kitchen, if it's completely unavoidable to redo it, why not enjoy it for a couple of years before actually listing? I love what Shannon said about having a long-term plan, short-term plan and midterm goals. So if you're thinking in the next couple of years that you're going to move, go ahead and spread out these updates. I think this also goes, and I learned this from you, Simon, is taking outdoor pictures. If you think you want to list your home in the early spring, talk to your agent about taking pictures in the summer or early fall when landscaping is more lush, right?
Yep.
So you asked about design trends. So we talked about warmer colors and all of that. We talked about COVID has more people working from home. Not all homes are equipped or have the space for a dedicated office. So finding ways to subtly incorporate offices into other spaces will continue to evolve. For example, I think formal living and dining rooms are a little bit of a thing of the past. And so owners are finding ways to make them flexible. So when they're entertaining and they have holidays at their homes, they can use that space. But, for 75% of the time when they're not doing that, they can use the space as either a home office or a game room or something like that. I think comfort is,
yeah.
Go ahead.
So Sarah, that all makes total sense. Thank you so much for, sharing the staging and also the design trend.
Yeah.
What is the best way for someone to get in touch with you to just get a consultation from you, just so they get an idea what they need to do?
Yeah.
You want to share your number?
Sure. And they can always contact me through you as well, Simon. But we can be reached at riverlndesign@gmail.com. And my phone number is 773-495-7103.
Sarah, thank you so much for your time. This is such amazing information that you're sharing with us. All this numbers make so much sense. So definitely staging your house is so important today. And we really want to get you the highest net value as possible. So again, Sarah, you've been great. We look forward to working with you more and continue working with you. All right?
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.
So now we got to talk about seller. We have attorneys on hand. And who is going to be Mark Arnowitz. And he's going to concentrate talk about seller and how we can really, how to protect their assets, because the value is going higher and making sure that, they do everything right to protect them. So Mark, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Simon. Thank you.
Yeah. So you want to talk about what we can do for sellers?
I would love to. So, I'm Mark Aronowitz from the law firm of Horan and Aronowitz, and I am happy to talk about sellers because we are in a unique market where there is massive demand by buyers and limited numbers of sellers. And what happens when you have that kind of offsetting market? You have leverage as a seller, massive leverage. And we are seeing sellers use that leverage to their best advantage. When you have multiple buyers, putting an offer is obviously the big difference maker is purchase price, but there is a lot of other sort of factors that will impact on how a seller makes a decision. And one of the big ones is in terms of maximizing assets, you have buyers who are providing purchase price offers. And the way historically these real estate transactions worked is that during the course of the transaction, oftentimes you may have offsets off that purchase price through reductions because of inspections and buyers demanding sellers make repairs, or through reductions because a buyer goes to get a mortgage and their mortgage appraisal comes in lower than the purchase price value. Historically, there is a negotiation and potentially reduction in purchase price. What we are trying to do from a seller's side right now is have sellers say, we're not going to agree to those things. So let's start with the big one, which is the appraisal. When a buyer is buying a home with a mortgage, their lender will send out an appraisal, as John spoke about earlier today. And oftentimes that appraiser in a market where the values are increasing heavily, the appraiser may not have caught up to the current values being as high as they are. So when they issue their appraisal report, they'll say that the value is less than the purchase price. And the way this historically works is that when it's less than the purchase price, the understanding is the buyer then can't get a certain loan and the parties may have to renegotiate or the transaction may not proceed. So how are we avoiding this from a seller's side? Well, when the contract is signed, the seller is making the demand that the buyer, what's called waive their appraisal. And what that means is whatever value the appraisal comes in at has no impact on whether the buyer is saying that they can proceed with the transaction and get their mortgage, essentially meaning that they would have to come up with additional cash or down payment money to make up any shortfall in an underappraised value. This part's, I mean, that is critical. That is a big change in the benefit of sellers through these transactions. It means right off the bat, they're saying we are not going to reduce purchase price based on a third-party valuation of this property. We're only going to base it off the agreement between the buyer and the seller. So that's a major factor that sellers are really demanding from buyers in these multiple offer situations. A second thing is when you're dealing with inspections. Historically, when a buyer enters into a transaction, they have the right to do their home inspections, their physical inspections, which I know Ernie's going to talk about later. And once those inspection reports come back, if there are defects, buyers usually make demands for a seller to repair or provide credits. So what can a seller do to avoid that? Well, in this multiple offer market, a lot of sellers are saying you could do your inspections, but you're understanding up front that they're informational. We're not going to make any repairs. We're not going to provide any credits, and you can't back out. So you're buying this house based on the value you see today because there are so many people that want the same house. From that informational stage, there are other kind of gradual reductions in inspection. One would be limiting inspection to major defects. That's pretty common anyway, but these days it's become more firm. So what does that mean? It means that unless there's some sort of structural or environmental contaminant that really poses a vast health and safety issue, a buyer can't make a request for a repair or a credit. This helps the seller go into this knowing that, okay, unless there's a true disaster with my house that we're unaware of, I'm going to be able to not have to spend excess money on my repairs or credits and be able to maintain the same value that we've agreed upon from the contract. So those two are very big ones, the appraisal and the inspection. If you can limit your exposure on both of those, you're really limiting the ability for a buyer to demand that you reduce your pricing throughout the transaction and kind of alleviate that concern that you're going to have buyers do bait and switch on you in the middle of a transaction. Simon, any questions so far on appraisal and inspection before I move on?
Those totally make sense. So for a seller, what about, closing day, right? So some of the seller today want maybe like, hey, you know what, I want to catch this market and take advantage of it and sell now, and then say, hey, I can move into the summer months. And what do you tell the seller on that part?
Okay, you got ahead of me on my next point. So because people are trying to take advantage of this crazy seller market, and they're like, you know what, I got to get my money now while it's still hot, but I don't have anywhere to go yet. So one thing sellers are demanding, and we're seeing it a lot, and it's from an attorney's side, it's not always the most comfortable, but it's truly effective from a seller side, is we agree on a closing date with the understanding that after the closing, the seller can remain at the property for a particular period of time under what's called an occupancy agreement. And the benefit to the seller is they get to sell their house at the height of a market while also obtaining extra time at the house to find wherever they want to go. There was some discussion earlier about, are you moving out of state? Are you staying in state? Some people haven't figured that out yet. This gives them an extended period of time to make those decisions while still getting the full value of their purchase price. So that's become very big. And then beyond that, normally with an occupancy agreement, the idea would be that a seller would pay, let's not call it rent, but let's call it a occupancy fee while they're there. A lot of sellers, beyond just saying we want the additional time, are also saying we also don't want to pay an occupancy fee. So they're even limiting their exposure in that regard. They're being able to stay while also not paying their mortgage because they've now sold their house, and also not paying the same occupancy fees to a buyer that they may normally be paying. So a lot of ways to use the leverage in that front too. And then talking about on the closing day, we're seeing normally, and it's pretty common, and it's the way the contract reads, a seller has to get all of his stuff out of a property. He has to sell it when it's clean, all of his material possessions are gone. And we're seeing sellers now saying, we're not going to do that. We're going to sell you the property. We're going to take our personal stuff. Anything we leave behind, you deal with. And buyers are saying, okay, because when they're one of multiple buyers, that sometimes is the difference maker, which I know there's other people who are going to talk about how to get your multiple offer accepted. But from an attorney standpoint, it's kind of fascinating when we get to this closing day and people are like, okay, I'm leaving you all my junk and I'm leaving. Which means that a seller doesn't have to spend money on, junk removal or necessarily all the money they would normally have to spend on a mover. So it's a further valuation of how to maintain your assets. And then the last quick point I was going to talk about is more of a tax question. So when you sell your property, New Jersey requires every seller to pay what's called a transfer tax. And it's a graduated tax based on the purchase price value of the home. And there's two things I want to point out. One is if you're above a certain age, if all owners of the property are above 62, you do get a reduction in that transfer tax. So I only mention that so people are aware of it, because sometimes we do have sellers who come along and aren't aware, and they're not being told that they are eligible for this reduction. But the other thing I was going to mention is oftentimes during the inspection process, we have negotiations on credits. And one thing you can do at the original contract stage is have an agreement that any transfer tax for a seller will be based on the net amount they're going to make. So even if there's a credit, we can pass that additional credit transfer tax value back to a buyer. And I've seen that a bunch of times recently where we're saying, you know what, even if we agree to a credit, we're not going to pay the tax on it, which transfer tax on that credit value, which normally we would. So that is another thing to keep in mind in terms of maximizing your assets as a seller. It's a great leverage time to be a seller. You can demand all kinds of things where you haven't even seen before or heard of, and people are still saying yes just because they want the property so badly. And Simon and I've seen some doozies recently, so he knows.
It's amazing out there right now, right? I mean, especially with all the multiple offers. And then, of course, later on we can have another attorney talk about how they can protect the buyer as well. So Mark, really thank you so much for your time. If someone want to get in touch with you, have you been the representation, what's the best contact number for them to reach you?
So I like to give people my cell phone for direct communication. It's 917-494-0217. And I'm available anytime. That's what real estate is, 24/7. So I tell people, call me whenever.
Thank you so much, Mark, for your time. And Mark is a great attorney, and we have a couple of transactions as well. So definitely he knows how to handle and help you as a seller, and also a buyer too, and but get you the best advice you can. And thank you again. And so now we're gonna move on to something that both seller and buyer should know is the titles, title search and title insurance. We're gonna bring on Peter, you still know. And he is the owners of Acres Title. Hi, Peter.
Hi, Simon. How are you today?
How are you doing? So let's tell people how important it is to have a title search and title insurance.
Before I talk about that, Simon, I want to bring up something very, very important for both buyers and sellers, which no one has brought up yet, which is very, very, very troublesome: wire fraud. The wire fraud that's going on in the real estate industry right now is completely out of control. Our office alone, we may get 10 to 15 fake emails a day from fraudsters and hackers. So my public service message to all the buyers and sellers out there is, please do not wire any funds to anyone unless you speak to your realtor, your attorney, or your title company. These emails that come from these hackers are very sophisticated. They'll change one letter on someone's email address, and they'll try to fool you. And once you press that button to send that wire, most likely that money is never coming back. So please do not wire any funds unless you talk to your realtor, your attorney, or the settlement company or title company that's doing your transactions. Do not rely on any emails, text messages. You have to be very, very, very careful, because I know you all work very, very hard for your money and you don't want to lose it.
That
Okay?
makes sense. A good thing is that, with our team, we haven't had that experience. So definitely, you should definitely making sure that, you talk to your attorneys and before you wire transfer any funds. Totally agree, 100%.
Absolutely.
So Peter, let's talk about title insurance.
Sure. So what I like to do for all your agents, for their buyers and their sellers, is before they take a listing or do anything of that sort, we like to run a quick title search for everyone. We'll do a present owner search, which will tell you who owns the property, which is very important if you're representing the seller, because you want to make sure that the proper person is signing the listing agreement, that it's not an estate, it's not an attorney in fact, or you have a power of attorney involved. And it gives you a good chance to see how many liens are on the property, how many judgments are on the property. So we like to do that ahead of time before either you take a listing or you could do it for a buyer who's looking to make an offer. And if the house is a little under the water, maybe you can get a little better offer on the price. So we try to stress to everyone to order this prior to taking a listing or prior to making an offer on the house. We're more than happy to do it for you. And that includes a title search. We'll also do a flood search because we want to make sure that the house is not in a flood zone. Okay. If you're in Monmouth, Ocean, Atlantic County, we'll also do a tideland search for you to make sure the property is not claimed by the state of New Jersey. If you're buying in Hoboken, Weehawken, Edgewater, Jersey City, we also do tideland searches there because there are a lot of stream beds that run underneath these properties where the state will have a claim. I have one right now. No one could understand it. It's a nice condominium. No one in Hoboken, no one ever ran a tideland search. We do it. The property is 50% claimed by the state of New Jersey. So now we're involved in escrows. It's going to take at least a year to fix the problem. As long as everyone's on the same page and everyone willing to escrow the money, you can get the transaction closed. But if they're not willing, you're going to have a problem on your hands with that.
I totally hear you. I self-experienced it myself.
Yes,
and also
I
I
remember.
know Mark owners also have other property that's have experience that we were not aware of. So definitely having that title search and also knowing that the state doesn't own anything, especially when you're on the water, anything with the water, so
Right.
definitely
Salt
have
water.
that search done. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And there's two types of policies we offer for homeowners. One is a standard title insurance policy, and the other is an enhanced policy. The standard policy covers you against standard things that can happen on a title. If someone misses a lien, if there is some sort of an outstanding interest that's missed. But I try to recommend to people to use the enhanced policy. It costs you 20% more on the premium side, but there's so many more protections allowed under this policy. It protects you for zoning. It protects you for encroachments. It protects you if they miss any building permits. And it definitely protects you against forgery. So this is a policy that the attorney should really try to recommend to their buyers to buy this policy because it gives a lot of protection to the purchaser as well as the purchaser's attorney. Because God forbid someone misses a permit, or God forbid there's a deck in the back that's violating some setback line, you are protected for this with an enhanced policy. It's something that every time I do a seminar on enhanced policies, everyone starts ordering them. The only catch to an enhanced policy, you must order a new survey on the property, which today in this market, if you're buying a home, you should always buy a new survey. A lot of people want to give you a survey affidavit of no change. I don't recommend doing that. You should get your own survey that's certified to you. Title company insures it, insures against all the encroachments, and you will not have a problem when you go to sell your property, because it could be anything could absolutely happen. So a survey is crucial. You should get a new one. I'll just tell you a story about one we had this week, myself and my son Tony, where we had a piece of property. They made an offer on it. They wanted to put a swimming pool in the backyard, and right through the backyard was a storm drain easement that would cut right through the middle of the swimming pool. Without knowing that ahead of time, you'd be in a lot of trouble when someone wants to put a pool and they find out, well, you really can't put a pool there because of the easement there. So this is why you want to do these searches ahead of time, so you know everything you can possibly know about the property. And because we do these for Simon's team, there's no charge for anyone. Okay.
Wow, that's amazing. And then also to touch on the survey, it's, you know, do they need to do it for all of them, or is it that, you know, because it's anything over 10 years, we were told to do a new survey. So you're saying that it doesn't matter how old they are, you should just do a new survey anyway, because of the fence and all the different encroachment.
Right, because the problem is you're relying on the seller of the property to certify there have been no changes. And most people don't know even what a survey is today. So my best thing is always order a new survey. The only time you don't need a new survey is if you're buying a condominium. They give what is called a survey certificate. The title insurance companies have made a decision that we will insure every condominium with a no survey endorsement. So it's just as if you got a survey, but you don't have to pay for a survey. So that's like $250 to $350 you save, because on all condos, you do not need a survey. Now, don't get confused between condo and townhouse. Condominium means you have a percentage interest in the common elements. A townhouse could be fee simple, where you own your lot and block. In those cases, you do have to get a survey where there's no master deed filed, just a declaration of covenant restrictions. So that's the difference between condominium and something that may be in a planned unit development. Okay.
That makes sense. So anything else you want to mention about title insurance that we didn't talk about today?
Yeah, I just want to say, I want to touch on what Mark was talking about the realty transfer tax. Just make sure all your buyers realize if they're buying any properties that are over $1 million, they will be paying a 1% mansion tax on that property, which, if you know, it could be a lot of money. So have to be careful with that also.
Absolutely. And that's what we will probably touch on that, you know, when we do a buyer consultation with all our clients, to making sure they're aware of it. There's a mansion tax on the buy side, and also there's a transfer tax on the sell side.
On the sell side, that's absolutely correct.
Absolutely. Peter, it was my pleasure having you. Again, thank you so much for sponsoring this event. How is someone that get in touch with you to find a little bit more about title and title insurance?
They can call me on, my number is 973-376-4643. My extension is 100. And my email is peter@acrestitle.com. And I just wanted to say one more thing, Simon. I sat through this whole seminar with you. The guest speakers were excellent. You put on an excellent professional program. It was very, very enjoyable for me to and you always take something away from something new. So excellent job, Simon.
Thank you so much. I'm also learning every day, right? We want to learn every day.
Without a doubt.
So, and also, being how, how large and successful your firm is, and you are always reachable. So I really appreciate you being available for us at all time for our clients and also my team members. So thank you again so much.
Okay,
so now we're gonna move on. We're gonna try to move on quickly because we respect everyone's time. So I'm gonna actually change the schedule just slightly because I know Ernie is on the wing. He might have a home inspection he has to go to. So we're gonna talk about home inspection right now. Hi, Ernie, how you doing?
Oh, pretty good, Simon. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. So you have done many home inspection in your lifetime and my lifetime. So let's talk about it. What's going on today in this crazy market?
Okay, well, welcome. I'd like to thank you for inviting me to talk today. The topic I have is expectations. So give me about 4 minutes to explain, and then we'll open up for questions. For those that don't know me, Ernie Borsalino, Vault for Home Inspections. I've been doing home inspections now for 34 years, and I still love my job. I feel that I'm doing a great service for buyers and sellers, letting them know the condition of the home and what they should expect in the future in regard to maintenance, life expectancies of the equipment. So expectations, I'm also a New Jersey State licensed electrician, licensed radon tester, pesticide applicator for termite inspections. And all this, of course, comes with a price because as home inspectors, we have to do 20 hours of continuing education a year. In addition, I have to do 12 hours a year for my electrical license, 4 hours radon, 10 hours termites. I do PowerPoint presentations to home inspectors. I teach at the adult school to homeowners. So every year I'm trying to learn something new. So even at this presentation, I like to listen to everything and what everybody has to say, and it makes you a better person and better at your job. When I first started doing home inspections in 1988, our main concern was the roof, heating, AC, plumbing, and electrical. Then .com came along and software came to make our lives easier. Well, now we take pictures of everything from a door that sticks to a chipped floor tile. Our 11-page home inspection reports for some inspectors is over 70 pages. We call that CYA. I try to limit my inspection reports to 30 pages. The question is, what's the expectation of home inspectors should be? Like a condo inspection should be simple, but believe me, it's never ever simple. We have to inspect the interior. We have to inspect the furnace, water heater, windows, doors, electrical break, just like a house, but we're just not inspecting the outside. A new home, people say, I don't need a home inspection because it's brand new. I've done 2 now in the last month for a builder who's building new homes in Short Hills. And he wants me to come out there, which I have done, to go over and look at it from a home inspector perspective and let them know what a home inspector might think or find or what they would report. An old home is an old home, and buyers need to understand it's an old home. Yes, it's been updated, renovated, but the main thing, experienced home inspectors should be able to look at the settlement in the home. Is this normal, not normal, and is it something of concern? We have flip houses out there. Are they just a cover-up? These are the hardest to inspect because we know the home was purchased for the sole reason to buy and sell as quickly as possible. None of the components of the home was replaced, including heating, cooling, plumbing, electrical. It hasn't been used on a daily basis to evaluate it. It was last month. I did one in Short Hills, ran all the bathrooms and came down to the kitchen. There was water dripping from the ceiling onto the countertop of this, $150,000 kitchen. They called the builder, he came, and so there was a drain from the shower that wasn't connected right. It's in the walls. And, I'm glad I found it. It was kind of like we had towels or cleaning up everything. But if we didn't find it now, that new home, those people moved into expecting nothing to happen. As soon as they took a shower the first week or so, they would have been opening up the ceiling while they're living there and a lot of renovations. There's a lot of stuff like asbestos. I'm just gonna on these points. Asbestos was a big deal, back in the 80s, 90s, when every home had some amount of asbestos. Now, most asbestos in homes have been renovated, so I really don't find it that much. And keep in mind, a home inspector by New Jersey regulations does not have to report on asbestos. A good educated, trained inspector will point it out, but we don't have to. So if someone moves in a home and they find asbestos, they can't go back to the home inspector and say, why didn't you tell me? Lead paint was big in the 90s with these guns. They would shoot the walls, tell you what percentage of lead was in there. Nobody does lead paint inspections anymore because houses have been painted. The interior has been painted. If there's lead in the walls behind the paint, do we really care? Yeah, we might care about old windows that go up and down and create dust, but most of the windows have been replaced by now. underground oil tank, something I don't do. I think you should hire someone that does it for a living. I think that should be done on every home, only because you drive around, you see oil tanks still being pulled out of the ground. I really suggest that sellers do this test before they put their house on the market. If they do it before and they find the tank, then they could go out and price getting a reasonable. It only costs about $1,500 to $1,800 to remove a tank if it's not leaking. So this, there's a lot of transactions. They find the tank and everything gets put on hold. The seller doesn't want to remove it, but then 3-4 months later, they realize they can't sell it without removing the tank. A lot of people are doing sewer line inspections now. I recommend this be done by a plumber. It usually costs about $300. If it's done by another company that does not do plumbing work, then they can't give you an estimate. A plumber could say, yes, there's clogging in here, I could clean it out for $800, or you're going to need a whole new sewer pipe out to the street for like $10,000. Any home over 50 years, we know what goes down those sewer lines, so it's easy after 50 years to walk, So meaning home inspectors should never take anything for granted. They should put their clients first and remember that they're going to be living there with their families, and the last thing they need is an unexpected surprise after they move in. Will a home inspector find every defect? Will a seller disclose even no problems with their own home? Will a realtor always sell the perfect home? Will an attorney know exactly what to negotiate? So back to expectations. I think that's the thing that I try to get across when I'm booking a job with a client. What are your expectations? I know now, as it was Mark was saying, or that there's a limit. We're only going to do structural and heating. And as president of the American Society of Home Inspector Chapter New Jersey, when I do my seminars, I say, guys, stop taking pictures of doors that are missing a doorknob or a little crack in a window. Let's get back to the 80s when we did what we were supposed to do. Check the roof, electrical, plumbing, heating, the most important parts. So I'm really glad when I hear that those are the things that they can negotiate for, because it makes my job more professional, and not a nitpicker. So if you have any questions, I'm open for questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Home inspection is definitely for, to look for all the major, structure, operation, environmental. But again, what major to a seller to major to a buyer could be two different things, right? So definitely we want to make sure it's not just cosmetic changes or upgrade. So definitely.
Yeah, so as a home inspector going around, someone says, oh, you're going to report that that door is sticking. It puts us in an awkward spot. Okay, with the software now, take a picture of it, goes into the report. But I try to put it down as a less significant item. And so, my reports, I try to list, these are your 4 or 5 items. These are the important ones, most significant. And here, you want your honey-do list? Here it is, when you move in, get a handyman. It's going to cost you $1,000 for these 10 items, I try to be realistic with the buyers.
Yeah, I love your report because, you actually spell it out versus other reports that you have to really read through the whole thing. Yes, you read through your report, but you give a summary page in the beginning and say, here's the key item you need to address. And then here's a secondary item that eventually, if you want to take care of it, you can. So it's really, it's a great way of helping a buyer understand. Also help a seller to see what is really the key items that make sense to address or not, So Ernie, that was really great. Thank you so much for your time. Anything else you want to add or mention?
No, I just, like I said, I've been pushing this with our association for a long time. Get rid of these 70, 80, 90-page reports, which just is all cover your ass, boilerplate statements. And, when attorneys hate them because, they got to read through this whole thing, just give me the main items. And that's what I try to do. And so far I've been successful with that. I don't have attorneys knocking on my door trying to sue me or anything. So I'm going to stick with what I know best. And hopefully.
You've been doing this a long time. So continue doing what you do great at. And, you're one of, inspector that, we really have great respect, and also of all the information you provide for us. Thank you so much for your time. Now with that, with home inspection, we are go to the next panelist who is going to help buyer to understand the report about the home inspection report. And she's going to help them how to understand to making sure that what are their rights, so we're going to bring on Jody Rosenberg, who is going to talk about what buyer representing buyer today. Hi, Jody, how are you doing?
Hey, Simon, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So let's talk about it. So, when a buyer, gets so excited, win a multiple offer, they come in and they're like, we did this, we waived inspection, we waived this, we waived that. And then you come in and say, wait a second, guys, do you really know what you're doing? So let's talk about that. What are the rights?
That's a great way to start, because my first thought is, oh, no, you didn't. So why is a lawyer important in a real estate transaction in New Jersey? What a lot of people don't know, in South Jersey, you don't even have to have a lawyer. Some people just use the title company. In some other states, they don't use a lawyer. But a lawyer is important because the buyer needs protection for the buyer. And that's because New Jersey is a buyer beware state. So as Ernie talked about, an inspector turns up all the issues that the buyer needs to know, and the buyer cannot rely on the seller's disclosure. Even if the seller tells you the house has always been dry, you need Ernie to really look and make sure that there wasn't some sort of, something painted over. I recently had a situation where there was a seller who painted over some effervescence in between when the buyer looked at the house and just looking at the house and buying it, and the actual inspection, because the buyer happened to take videos. And so as a buyer's attorney, my job is to make sure that if this transaction goes through, they're comfortable with it. Obviously, sometimes people think I could be, as a buyer's attorney, at odds with the agents because the agents want the deal to go through. I want the deal to go through, but I want to make sure that the buyer is fully aware, and that anything that the seller says, that they can really check it out. Now, buyers do have rights. If a seller lies and says there's never been termites, and the buyer doesn't find termites, and then later on finds out the seller was lying, the buyer could have a cause of action to sue. But we don't want to worry about that now. We want to have the buyers make sure now that they've looked at everything and that they've really kicked the tires. But when I say, oh, no, you didn't, is the buyers come to me and say, well, I've waived almost everything. A lot of people waive chimney and fireplace. A lot of people come from the city don't realize that you might need your chimney flue to run your furnace, things like that. So I actually, as a buyer's attorney, even if somebody's waived something, I will try to put in the contract that, but if, for example, the chimney will cost more than $10,000 to safely repair, they might have an extra out. And as Mark has told everybody, sometimes I don't get that. Sometimes I get, too bad. You want the house. We have other people up behind you, so too bad. And as an attorney, I have to explain that. And as an attorney, sometimes you have to cover your butt and put that in writing to your client and say, you realize that. So it's a tough job to represent a buyer, but they have to know, and I'm very clear with them in my correspondence, that no matter what the seller's condition says, you really need to know what's going on in this house. And what's nice in a lot of towns have a portal, like an SDL portal, which shows you already from the first day if there are any permits open, what permits were taken on the house. So there's a lot of due diligence that the buyers can do and that I can help them do from the very beginning. But the inspector is their best partner, and they really do need to realize with their inspector that they're not asking their inspector to find scratches on cabinets. And I did have a client recently who tried to manage the inspector to write an 88-page report. And when you do that and you come in with a nick on a something, the sellers are not paying attention to the more important issues. So I try to have a firm hand with my clients, and I understand I don't want to scratch cabinet either, but you're not getting a new house. This is an old house. This is a house that has issues, and more importantly, your inspector has found the most important thing. So let's do that and put our best foot forward. So buyers are protected, even if they try to, waive a lot of things. Another area where buyers waive, as Mark spoke about and as John Lampkin talked about, are the appraisals. And I waive the appraisal contingency, and I just paid $150,000 over, and I oh, no, you didn't. But I say, okay, let's just make sure you understand what that is. And it is true that it does not give them another bite at the apple if their lender says, you're going to have to come up with $200,000 in cash. And so if they haven't already given a proof of funds, I'm going to make sure that they have funds to show that they're going to go through this, because nobody wants to waste time. You as an agent, and especially if you're representing a seller, do not want buyers to waste your time in a deal they're not going to go through with. If they can't get a mortgage, if they're going to back out over an inspection, you kind of want to know that from the beginning. So they definitely have rights with a mortgage. Usually they have a 30-day mortgage contingency. I've seen 10 days lately in this market, in this day, you know, and I've seen people like John able to handle that. And so they better use someone like John who's going to be able to get them a mortgage commitment, because when you say you have a 10-day mortgage contingency and you try to use a bank, you know, it's very hard to do that. But things are doable. But I do definitely, my first instinct when I get the contract is say, uh-oh, what'd you do to me? What'd you do on timing? But inspection, mortgage, absolutely. What other questions did you have?
Well, I mean, you covered the main ones, right? Mortgage contingency, appraisal, home inspection, and then let's talk about, you know, the last thing, which is Mark also touched on a little bit about, like, you know, if they have a one delay closing and they use occupancy, you as the buyer attorney, how can you protect the buyer to making sure, you know, the buyer willing to move out, and then also do you do any like put escrow in? To making sure, like, you know, all that stuff?
That's a great question. So if, and I do have that, I have a lot of people here who, especially this month, who have agreed to buy homes that they'll let the seller stay until the end of the school year or things like that. Now, first of all, the buyer has to make sure with their lender that a use in occupancy is okay. And generally under 6 months as a rule is usually okay, but they definitely do. And sometimes I need to talk to their lender before we agree. What I like to do is have as much leverage as I can in the use in occupancy. And Mark, I haven't had anybody tell me I had a free occupancy yet, but I'm expecting those. But the things that you don't want to, as a buyer, to pay for your seller to live in the house. And I had a client say to me today, well, why are they only paying this amount? Why are they only paying my interest on my mortgage? Technically, if you have somebody stay in your house, if they've lived there for a long time and they don't have a mortgage, it's going to cost them more to live in it under your rules. But if you can agree, and I can get my goal is to have them pay the basically principal, interest, the mortgage payment, which is usually principal and interest, but heavily interest, taxes, and home insurance. I try to get that prepaid. So if it's a 3-month use in occupancy, I want those 3 months up front as a credit at the closing table. But how do you get them out of the house? We all know in New Jersey and everywhere with the pandemic, you can't get a tenant out of your house lately. Now that's changed because the moratorium is over, but you have to make sure that a use in occupancy, and that's every time, is not a landlord-tenant relationship. It's a license. So we make sure in a use in occupancy agreement, which is sometimes more involved than, you know, the regular contract in terms of how long it takes to negotiate, but you want to make sure that it's a license, and that if there are any fees to kick this person out, the buyer gets it. So as a buyer's attorney, I try to hold an escrow. I try to make sure that escrow is a good amount of money that the seller is going to want back to get out. I also have a penalty. So if the use in occupancy expires at 6 p.m. on the 30th of March and they're still there the next day, I'm getting a penalty of 1.5 times. That's what I try to negotiate, the daily occupancy fee, so they'll leave. So those are the things you do. Buyers also don't like that they're insuring a home that a seller's living in. So what happens is the buyer has to maintain insurance because they own the house, and the seller will have insurance to protect their contents. And most times things are okay. And most times there's not a claim. But technically speaking, if the house, you know, broke down under the seller's occupancy, it's on the buyer's insurance. So I don't love use in occupancy if I can help a buyer, but by the time it gets to me, they've already given away the farm, and I just try to make it as best for both of them so that they're protected, so they know the seller will get out. But on that note, I want to talk a little bit about what time of the essence is. Time of the essence is a legal term that basically sounds like it. What it is, what it sounds like. And in the general contract that a buyer signs is written by the New Jersey Board of Realtors. And in the paragraph 8, it talks about all deadlines being time of the essence. Well, even before COVID, every lawyer took that out because a bank could take an extra day. Ernie could take an extra day to get his report. Things happen. And now there's COVID, weather issues, and things like that. So generally speaking, both buyers and sellers' attorneys agree that time is not of the essence, except the closing date. And they don't agree that the closing date is time of the essence because, again, things happen. Seller's moving company didn't come the other day in one of my clients because of the snow. And so things had to move. But what happens is if a buyer is moving from the city and obviously they're out of their apartment or something like that, if the sale date has come and gone and the sellers have not left, I can declare time of the essence. What does that mean? I send a letter that basically says, if you don't come to the closing table in 10 days and ready to leave, we're going to sue you. It doesn't have a lot of teeth because then I have to first sue them, and it usually gives them an extra 10 days. And most of the time they do get out. But that is a protection that buyers like to know they have, that they can declare time of the essence if for some reason the closing date comes and goes and there hasn't been an agreement to extend it.
Yeah, that also goes with the seller side too as well.
Absolutely. The buyer's bank isn't ready to close. It's not the seller's fault that the buyer didn't give proof of employment and at the last minute forgot to hand everything in. The seller wants to get out. The seller doesn't want to pay an extra day. That seller declares time of the essence and the buyer doesn't come to the closing table. They're going to get sued.
Absolutely. Well, Jody, thank you so much. I know you represent buyers and sellers all the time. So how does someone get in touch with you to have your service?
Well, they can call me at 973-637-0099. Email me anytime, jody@jodyrosenberglaw.com. My office is in downtown Millburn above the Standard. You can stop by and say hi or have a drink. And happy to help or answer any questions. I did want to make one extra comment. A lot of times, buyers and sellers will call a lawyer ahead of time. And it's helpful, even before your contract is signed, to talk to attorneys, talk to a few, so that in Millburn, especially in Short Hills, where there's bidding wars, it's nice to know if you have an attorney ahead of time that it's somebody that other people have worked for. Because Simon's going to see a contract and know that the buyer put my name down and they're going to be more comfortable. So don't be afraid to call ahead of time and sort of sign people up, because I do sometimes have people say, can I put your name down? So good to know to talk to any lawyers that they recommend and just get an idea of who you want to work with ahead of time.
That totally makes sense. And our team also do that too. So I'm glad that you brought that up. So thank you so much for your time. So now
Pleasure.
we've heard with like the buyer attorney from Jody Rosenberg and then seller attorney Marco Honoritz. Now we're going to talk to my team members, who is Nina Jindal and Tracy Bieberberg, and we're going to talk about how how to win multiple offers. Based on those comments that you heard, we pretty much get a copy, like kind of carve out some of the key points. So Tracy and Nina, thank you so much for joining us. So we're gonna try to move this quickly and bring a couple of key points out. So so Tracy, what is the first thing you tell your client that you should definitely have on your to win the offer?
The very first thing that you need is a pre-approval from a qualified lender. And as John Lampkin was saying, his team has been amazing and they're able to get that to us within an hour or two. But John also has another tool called the Red Arrow Commitment. And if you talk to John and that's something that he can provide, that helps you be competitive in the arena when you're making an offer. What it means is that all the underwriting on that loan has been done and you now have a commitment from him to lend.
That makes sense. And then Nina, what's the next thing? Like, how do you tell a client, like, what is the winning number?
So, our team is on top of the market. We do not just pull the number out of the air. We look at comps. We are all data driven, and we help them provide all the information they can to understand what the winning bid would be. So let's just say, every zip code is different, as Simon presented earlier. And between Millburn and Short Hills, also the trends are different. So we provide them with a range to best understand compared to what sold in the last 3 months, what's under contract, the days on the market. and what the general trend is telling us to come within the range of the winning bid.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
the start price, I mean, the list price is only the start price for sure.
Absolutely. In today's market, right? And
Yeah.
then Tracy, what do you think about like when you talk about this deposit, right? Some people don't do a good faith deposit, they go to second deposit, but with all the multiple offer situation, do you think it's smart to actually give a larger amount of good faith deposit to make sure that you are, that you're a serious buyer?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing when you're in a multiple offer situation is trying to differentiate your offer from the rest of the offers and make your offer look more positive. And one of the ways we do that is it's a seller's perception that if you're putting more money down as an initial deposit, that you have more skin in the game and that you're more serious about buying the house and that you're not about to walk away versus somebody that's only putting down, wants to put down $1,000 to $5,000 on $1 million home. They may easily walk away from that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But when you're putting down $50,000, $100,000 deposit, means you're not going to walk away easily.
Yeah, and then Nina, what are some of the, like, we talk about Jody and Mark talk about like some of the terms, right? So when you write those terms, what are some of the things that you recommend to your clients to do?
In such a competitive market, as Tracy said, our idea is to help our clients win, and our team does that very successfully. It's about setting expectations. It's about helping them realize how best to differentiate, and price is just one of the terms to understand how to meet in the middle, because any deal is only a win-win as long as it's for both the buyers and the sellers. So to help them understand that meet the closing date, put in a higher deposit, how you can limit your inspections and keep it to major structural, mechanical, environmental, what it means and what you're leaving on the table. However, you still continue to do all your due diligence. I had a buyer who waived off any inspection issues because it was a condo, but still did all due diligence for their information. So we help strategize for every home individually. There's no one right answer. And that's what our team provides to our buyers.
Absolutely. And Tracy, one last point is that, what do you think about your relationship with the other person that's on the other side?
So one of the most important things is to have a good relationship with the agent on the other side, in this case, the seller's agent. It goes a really long way when you work together and you have a good relationship and that agent knows they can trust you and they like working with you. Because if you put in an offer and the agent on the other side says, oh God, I cannot work with that person, then they tell the seller, this agent is very difficult to work with and you're not likely to get your offer accepted. So always make sure that your agent that you've picked has good working relationships with the other agents in the area.
Yeah, because an offer doesn't get done, it doesn't happen to all the way down to closing table. Anything can happen. So something fall through, and if you have a good relationship with that agent, you may be the first one they call you back to, because they say, hey, you know what, you did really, we were on the same page. This deal didn't come through. You know what, we're gonna put you as the backup offer. If your client's still available, we'd love to have the house, right? So those relations are really important. And I think one other thing that Jody mentioned is that to talk to a few attorneys before you actually submit your offer, just get to know like what you are waiving your rights of giving up on, understand what those are. I mean, one thing is that, yes, you can definitely limit your major structure operation, environmental, and home inspection, but also at the same time, you still have the right to do a full inspection for you to know what's going on about the house, right? Anything else you guys would like to add?
It's very important when you're using an agent that they know the market, that they're not somebody that's only done, 1 or 2 purchases per year, and that they're very experienced. So when you're interviewing agents, make sure they have the experience behind them, and they've sold a lot of homes.
Yeah, definitely. I know having Tracy and, Nina paving, like walking the pavement every day. They work with buyers, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And they're really, a full-time agent and local expert. And that's what you want to make sure you have. So, absolutely get in touch with us anytime if you have any questions. So if a buyer, want to get in touch with you guys, how do they get in touch with you guys, Nina and Tracy?
Well, mobile is right here, 914-519-8018. Email is standard for us. It's nina@swkrealestate.com, and always happy to help. I respond within the first 2 hours that if I'm available, or I will call you right back. Thank you.
Tracy, how about you?
My phone number is also at the bottom of my picture there. It's my cell number, 908-510-9593. You can call or text. I will get back to you as soon as possible. And my email is tracy@swkrealestate.com.
And also you can get in touch with me at 973-489-8885, 973-489-8885. And my email is simon@swkrealestate.com. And also just, that we have, a team of 20 amazing agents who is local expert and who knows, we do business in 7 different counties, and we sold homes over 50 different towns last year. And we did over $120 million. So we are local expert. We're one of the top team in New Jersey and also in the region. So you're looking for a realtor, please definitely get in touch with us. Again, my number is 973-489-8885. And you can also visit our website at simonkwongrealestate.com. So it's actually showing as swkrealestate.com. And to end this, I hope everyone got some amazing information. And thank you so much for all my panelists, from my title insurance, Peter, to John Lamkins, Guarantee Rate, to both my attorneys, Jody Rosenberg and Mark Oneritz, and Ernie's the attorneys, and the team members, Sean Aronson, Nina Jindal, and Tracy, and also with NT Data to give us real estate, estate planning. So thank you so much. So this session is all being recorded. So if you'd like to watch it again, if you register, you can definitely, we can download it a little bit later. It'll be on our website. There's a separate website that is called www.swkhomeexpo.com. In that website, there's also all the panelists information on there, so you can get in touch with them. And today also I want to thank all of the sponsors, again, especially Guarantee Rates and Anchor Titles being a premier sponsor. So thank you so much for your time today, everyone. And we love to serve you, and we'll listen to your real estate needs and bring you results. So give us a call, and you guys enjoy the rest of the day and have a good day.